My brother-in-law's grandfather, named Edward, was a well-known scholar in our county. One day, he fell ill and was bedridden when he suddenly saw a minor official holding a notice and leading a horse with a white patch on its forehead to find him. The official said to him, "Please come and take an exam." Edward, confused, asked, "The chief examiner hasn't arrived yet, why is the exam starting so soon?" The official didn't explain further but urged him to set off quickly. Edward had no choice but to mount the horse and follow the official despite his illness. Along the way, the surroundings felt unfamiliar to him, and eventually, they arrived at a city that seemed like the capital of a kingdom. Before long, they entered a magnificent palace. Inside the main hall, there were about a dozen officials seated, none of whom Edward recognized, except for the statue of the deity St. George. Outside the hall, there were 2 tables with 2 cushions, and another candidate was already seated. Edward sat beside him. On the table were pens and paper. Soon, the exam question was distributed, with 8 words written on it: 1 person, 2 people, with heart, without heart. Before long, both had finished their essays and submitted them. Edward's essay contained a line that said, "A deliberate act of kindness, though done, is not rewarded, an unintended wrongdoing, though done, is not punished." The gods present passed his essay around and praised it highly. Edward was then called up to the hall, where it was announced that he was appointed as the guardian of a city in Kent. It was then that Edward realized what was happening. He immediately knelt down, crying, and said, "Great gods, you have honored me by appointing me as the guardian. I dare not refuse. However, my elderly mother, who is over 70 years old, has no one to care for her. I humbly request to fulfill my duties after she passes away." The figure seated in the center, resembling a king, ordered someone to fetch Edward's mother's life record. A bearded official reviewed it and reported, "She has 9 more years to live." The gods hesitated, unable to make a decision. Then the statue of St. George suggested, "Let us have Richard take over for 9 years." He then said to Edward, "You were supposed to take office immediately, but considering your filial piety, you are granted a 9-year leave. When the time comes, you will be summoned again." St. George then offered some words of encouragement to the other candidate, and both of them bowed and left. The other candidate shook Edward's hand and escorted him to the outskirts of the city, introducing himself as someone from a nearby town, with the surname Richard. He also composed a farewell poem for Edward. Most of the poem was forgotten, but a couplet remained in memory: "With flowers and wine, spring is eternal, without candles and lamps, the night is bright." Edward then mounted his horse and returned home. Upon returning home, Edward felt as if he had awakened from a dream, but he had actually been unconscious for 3 days. His mother heard groaning from the coffin and, upon opening it, found that he had come back to life. She helped him out, and after a moment of daze, he began to speak. Later, Edward went to the nearby town to inquire and found out that a candidate surnamed Richard had indeed died on the same day. 9 years later, Edward's mother passed away. After handling the funeral, Edward took a bath, put on new clothes, and then died in his room. One day, his father-in-law, who lived inside the west gate of the town, suddenly saw Edward riding a horse with a red tassel, leading a group of carriages and horses to bid farewell. The family was very surprised, not knowing that he had become a deity. They hurried to Edward's house to inquire, only to find out that he had already passed away. Edward had written a short autobiography, but unfortunately, it was lost during a period of chaos. The records here are just a rough outline.